What is up, guys? Sonduren here, and in this video I'm going to give you the best tips to get the best fuel economy and mileage out of your Toyota or Lexus vehicle. So beside me I have my 2023 Lexus NX 350h, and this is the hybrid model of this Lexus NX, and I'm really excited to go ahead and talk to you about how you can all improve fuel economy and drive as most efficiently as possible, because that's why you bought this Lexus hybrid or Toyota hybrid. You're thinking about fuel economy. You want to make sure you're sipping on that gas and not using more than you have to get from point A to B. So I'm going to give you all of the best tips to go ahead and increase your fuel economy from the outside to make sure that the car is prepped, and I'm going to take you on a drive to go ahead and show you all the tips that I use when I'm driving to get the best gas mileage out of this vehicle. So let's start off with these tips before we even get driving. Number one, maintenance. Obviously, you want to make sure your car and vehicle is maintained, whether that's oil changes, spark plugs, whatever it is. Follow your manufacturer's recommended guidance on how to go ahead and do your maintenance. If you can do it yourself, great. If you want to go ahead, follow along on this channel. I show you how to do maintenance on your vehicle all by yourself at home. Simple and easy to go ahead and do. So make sure you subscribe, like this video, and you'll be able to check those out in the future. But follow up with all your maintenance. Make sure that's up there. Number two is going to be around these tires right over here. So what we want to do is make sure that for the tires, we pump them up to the proper manufacturer recommended PSI. And the reason why we want to do that before we even start driving is to make sure that we have the lowest amount of rolling resistance possible of the vehicle. So this is my Michelin X-Ice tires. We're still in the winter here in Canada. It's still pretty cold. The recommended PSI is 33 PSI. I've gone ahead and set this to 36 PSI. It's a little bit more in terms of its pump, but it's going to reduce the rolling resistance. Now, typically you'd say, if you're going on the track or something and you want to get more performance, you'd probably reduce the PSI, but I'm not doing that. This is my A to B driver. I want to increase the PSI just a little bit, and to make sure I remove the most amount of rolling resistance I can out of the tires to get even better fuel economy. Now, when we come over to the back of the vehicle, this is another one you definitely want to do. You want to come back here and reduce as much weight as possible. So you want to take out all the nonsense that you have back here. Let's see what I got. We have a lot of nonsense back here. Like, why do I need this? I got bags, I got a baby stroller, I got camera gear, I got a whole bunch of stuff back here. So in an ideal world, remove all the unnecessary weight that you have in the vehicle. So look, some of this stuff, okay, I got a baby, I got to keep the baby stroller in here probably, right? But if you got like tools or oil and all this other stuff that doesn't need to be there, remove as much of it as you can out of the vehicle. You reduce weight, you're going to increase your fuel economy. So those are the main things on the outside of the vehicle before we get started. But now let's hop into the Lexus, and I'm going to show you how to properly drive these hybrids so that you can maximize fuel economy on the road, so you can get from point A to B with saving the most amount of money. All right, so we're in the Lexus. A few things before we get started. Number one, obviously the one tip, you don't want to go ahead and start the vehicle and let it idle for a long time. I know in the winter a lot of people do that. Do that and just know it's going to impact your fuel economy. So ideally you don't do that. The other thing is you want to go ahead and reduce the temperature, right? The cabin air in a lot of vehicles is used to actually, with a fan, cool down the battery. So the entire point is you're trying to keep the battery in its optimal operating temperature. So you don't want it too hot, because then it could potentially overheat the battery. So those are some additional things that you should be thinking about when you're going ahead and driving your hybrid vehicle to get the best performance out of that battery. Now, you can go ahead and see I have the energy monitor in front of me. I've been getting on average about 5,000 kilometers on this vehicle, about 6.4 liters per 100 kilometers on mixed driving. We're going to go ahead and try to beat that using all of these tips. So I'm going to reset my odometer. Okay, we're going to reset that. Reset this trip as well. So we're on trip A. We're going to go ahead and take a stab at how we can go ahead and beat that average with these tips that I'm going to show you on how to drive this vehicle in the most efficient way. So the number one thing you want to do is when you get started, gradually go ahead and accelerate. You don't want to pump the acceleration right away, because it's going to kickstart the engine. Many of these tips I'm going to show you today is about making sure that energy monitor, that we do not turn on that engine as we are driving. We only want to turn on the engine as little as possible just to get us up to speed and then maintain speed through the battery. So that's how we're going to get the most fuel economy and the mileage out of this vehicle. We want to reduce the amount of time that the engine is running. That's key. So a big number one is, let's say I go into drive right now, I'm going to go ahead and start moving. I'm going to slowly gradually move. I'm not going to stomp it. I'm going to slowly move. And what that's going to do is just allow the battery to go ahead and drive the wheels. Perfect. This is great. Now I'm releasing. There's a stop sign coming. This is the other tip. You want to go ahead and use that regenerative braking as much as possible to get as much energy back into the battery. Gradually accelerate. I know that I don't need to go fast here. This is perfect. And I'm fully using the battery. The engine is not turned on. This is perfect. This is going to really increase that fuel economy. There's a stop sign coming, and now I'm going to let go, and there's going to be the charge indicator on my tach. I want to maximize this charge indicator as much as possible, but not by going underneath the bottom line that you see here, to make sure I get the most electricity and energy back into the battery. Now we're stopping here. This is great. This is where I'm going to show you the next tip, which is pulse and glide. So it looks like we're going to be clear in a second. And now I'm going to pulse, which is using the engine. We're going to hit the accelerator, not too crazy. Now you can see the engine's on. You could hear it. We're going to get up to the right speed. So it's 70 kilometers an hour here. I'm going to get about to an 85, and I'm going to release the gas. Now I've released the gas. It's gone ahead, started charging the battery. Now I'm just putting a little bit on the gas. So maybe I put a little bit too much there. A little bit on the gas right now, and what should happen is that your battery should just drive your wheels. So right now the battery is driving the wheels. I'm at the speed limit and the engine is off. So this is the key. Now the battery in most situations, depending on your incline, is not going to keep you exactly at that speed, and that's why it's called pulse and glide. So now I'm at 62. I'm going to pulse, turn that engine back on, get me to that speed, and then release. And now it's charging the battery, and I'm going to press a little on the accelerator. We can see just below eco that tach just went up just a little bit. That's giving a little bit more energy to the wheels so that it's going to continue to try to hold that speed for as long as possible. So this is what you want, right? This is the pulse and glide method. And so right now I'm gliding and I'm not losing much speed at all. And you can see the battery is driving these wheels. The engine is completely off. This is where you want to get to. This is going to really improve fuel economy for you because the engine's completely off. It's not burning anything on idle. It's not driving the wheels. This is great. Now, once you do this over and over again, you're going to know and get into a habit of it, just like driving stick. It's going to be like, you know, breathing. It's going to feel like that. So now I'm coming here. I've released off. I'm slowly braking. I'm getting the maximum charge back into the battery. But now I've lost all that speed. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it again. Look, the engine's on, so I don't want to just like lollygag with the engine on. I want to put that power in, get up to the appropriate speed that I need to, and release. Perfect. Now I put a little bit of throttle back in because I saw the release had the engine stop, and I have a truck in front of me, so that's fine. And right now, I am slowly putting back some energy into the wheels from the battery. And this is perfect. I'm doing the speed limit. I'm behind this truck. I'm not engaging the engine. And this is exactly what you want to do. Now, if you're on the highway, you can also leverage cruise control, and the system will automatically kind of make sure it turns the engine on only when it needs to. Now, obviously, when you're on the highway, you're going to get a little bit less in terms of fuel economy because the engine is running more, and really the hybrids really shine in the city streets when you're driving at these speeds. But you could see we're on a little bit of a decline, and so what that means is I'm able to actually keep my 60 kilometer an hour speed here simply through the battery, just holding that momentum for me. Okay, so now the engine just came on for a second. I went a little bit too aggressive on the throttle there. You're gonna learn, right, as you work with your vehicle of what that is. So I'm just gonna release off. The engine's now cut back off, but I'm gonna need to pulse. I'm falling a little bit, so I'm gonna pulse. Use that engine to get up to speed and release. Perfect. And now kick back into the battery to help hold, a little bit too much there, to help hold that speed. So I'm gonna release, great. And now it's holding that speed for me a bit more. So this is really a very valuable tip. Now, as we're coming to a stop, again, the other thing you want to do is make sure that you're leveraging all of that regenerative braking. So you don't want to over brake, because if you start braking too hard and too fast and not gradually, you lose a ton of the potential energy. It's not harvesting that energy back into the battery. This pulse and glide technique, your use of regenerative braking, these are really two of the big key tips when you're driving any hybrid from Lexus or Toyota that you can go ahead and use to really improve your fuel economy,
right? This pulse and glide. It almost feels like it's a little counterintuitive, right? To me, at first, it felt like, okay, I'm using the engine a lot. Is that not using a whole bunch of fuel, especially if I'm quote unquote kicking it to get up to speed? That's what I thought. But in tests, consumer reports, etc., my own experience, it's proven that doing this is actually much more efficient than keeping the engine idle. The biggest enemy is having an idle engine doing nothing. So again, I'm slowly picking up. I use the battery to get up to about 25-ish. Now the engine's on. I'm pulsing. This guy just came in front of me, so I have to just brake a little bit. That's fine. So I'm gonna pulse and let go. And just put a little bit of battery juice in there, just a little bit of throttle. And every vehicle is just gonna be a little bit different. I notice for me, the maximum amount of throttle I can use in the battery in my dash, the eco sign on the tachometer, as soon as I touch that E, that's the max limit in terms of the throttle here, or the tach. So I kind of know that from my own vehicle. That's the max I can go with the battery before it goes ahead and decides, hey, we need engine power here. Now again, I'm coming to a stop. I'm using the braking. I'm using it to slow down. It's just regenerating all that energy back into the battery for me. And now I've come to a stop. And again, the other big reason why you get such great fuel economy in the city is that when you're stopped like this, you're just on EV mode. The engine's off. And you can go ahead and just, move up a little bit with the battery. No need for the engine to turn on. You're immediately saving a ton of fuel just by removing the idling. And in city driving, we idle all the time. Think about it. You're going through the drive-through. I do this all the time. You go through the drive-through. Maybe you're waiting in the drive-through for 10 minutes, God forbid. I don't know, you're at a Starbucks or whatever. You're wasting all that fuel. Now you don't have to. You just sit in EV mode. And so now I'm gradually, again with the throttle, coming up, and now I'm gonna pulse. Pulse, pick up that speed that I want, and release. Fully released, and I'm gonna put back a little bit of power back in, and I see another red light coming up, so I'm just keeping this, throttle right here. The battery's holding me well, and traffic is slowing down. And I'm about to release the throttle now. I've released it. I'm gonna slowly brake. This car's coming in front of me. Maximize the amount of charge I can get here. And come to a stop. Again, it's like clockwork, right? You slowly accelerate up. Engine takes over, you pulse. And don't be too afraid, all right? Give it that good pulse. And release. And now you're gliding. But then put that throttle back in just a bit. I did that a little bit too much, just a bit. Just to get that energy going from the battery to support the momentum for the vehicle. That's what's happening right now. And fully releasing now. I see there's a red light. We're coming down, I'm braking. And I'm making sure, again, that charge indicator, because look what happens if I do this. I almost got there to the point where I wasted some of the charge, but that's what that line is there for, right? It's to help indicate how much of that charge you're getting, and then if you're wasting any by, over braking too late, too hard, you want to coast, right? So always think about it like that, right? From starting up, you want to go gradual. Then when you want to pick up speed, kick it. And then when you're slowing down, you want to be gradual as well, right? Everything needs to be gradual. So again, picking up speed gradually. And pulsing. The engine, I just heard it turned on. I didn't even have to wait for that. Now I'm going to pulse. I'm going to switch lane. And I'm going to release. And then I'm going to put a little throttle back in just to help the momentum. I see we have another red light. I'm going to release off the gas. The battery's fully doing its work. But that is the big key right there, is that pulse and glide, pulse and glide. Now, let's go ahead and take a look. What has been our fuel economy? So I'm going to go into the stats here. Trip average. So we reset the trip. You guys saw that. We're at 6 liters per 100 kilometers. So, I've been driving this vehicle 5.9. It just ticked to. Very conscious on my fuel economy. I'm pulsing now. Pulse. And release. And now we're back into EV mode. slowly put that throttle back in. So I just mentioned, right? I've been driving this vehicle about 5,000 kilometers. My average fuel economy has been 6.4 liters per 100 kilometers. If you've seen my previous videos, again, make sure you subscribe. I will link them in the card above. That's the fuel economy I've been getting. Without going into like the hyper milling mode, thinking about making sure I optimize for fuel economy every single drive, that's been my average. Look how we improve that average by just employing these methods. And by the way, I know I'm in the city, but I'm not doing the best city driving in the world because there's lots of, you know, green and red lights here, specifically a lot of red lights. So it's not the best ideal situation, and I'm still getting much better fuel economy just by employing these techniques and just thinking about it. Now, I promise you, once you do this for long enough, you're gonna go ahead and this is just gonna kind of fall in the back of your mind. You're just gonna do it automatically without even thinking about it. It's gonna be very simple and easy to go ahead and do, and you're just gonna increase that fuel economy more and more and more. And I know with gas prices, it's crazy, right? Cost of living, I don't know where you guys are in the world, North America, Canada, the United States, wherever, gasoline prices are super high. People are thinking how to get the most bang for their buck when they're driving. And employing these techniques and tips is gonna help you make sure you get the best fuel economy that you can get out of your Lexus or Toyota hybrid vehicles. We just actually hit 5.7 liters per 100 kilometers, again, using this pulse and glide technique, which I think is pretty amazing. And finally, my last tip before I let you all go is to make sure that you're driving at the optimal speed for your vehicle. Now, the optimal speed for any vehicle is typically around the speed limit on the highway. So Consumer Reports came out with this study. They tested a whole bunch of different hybrid vehicles, and the difference between 90 kilometers an hour and 120 kilometers an hour is 25%. So you're burning 25% more fuel the faster that you go from 90 to 120. So that's big. So if you're on the highway, I'm not saying to go 90. What I'm saying is to not go potentially 120, right? You know, depending on the flow of traffic and all that other stuff. But if you can, you know, get over into the middle or to the right lane, set your cruise control, set it to 100, to 110. If you're not in a rush, you're gonna save significantly more fuel on the highway. And the same thing can be said, by the way, on these streets. We're on these streets actually at 70 kilometers an hour. This is kind of the sweet spot for many vehicles to get the most fuel economy out of their engines and performance. But when you're talking about the highway, the faster you go, the exponentially more fuel you're going to start burning. So think about that when you're on the highway. The faster you go, exponentially, you're gonna burn more and more and more fuel. So you ideally wanna stay at about 100, let's say 110 max, you know, anything around that range. Because the faster you go, you're gonna burn way, way more fuel. So think about, again, calm start, calm slowdowns, and on the highway, you're driving at a quote-unquote calm speed. If you do all of these things, you're gonna save and improve on the fuel economy, even by what is rated by many of these manufacturers, especially if you use that pulse and glide technique. So again, I really hope this guys helps you out. I know it's very tough out there with the fuel cost of living. Everyone's looking to save money where they can, and this is one of the best ways that you can go ahead and just make sure that every dollar that you put into your vehicle, you get the most efficiency and best bang for the buck out of it for. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment box down below. If you have any other tips, let us know in the comment box down below as well. Make sure you like this video. Again, make sure you subscribe. Everything to do with cars I covered on this channel. Follow me along on the journey. I'll definitely give my ownership update of this 2023 Lexus NX 350h. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will catch you guys in the next video.